Upon further inspection, a mechanical integrity podcast goes beyond the data and dives into the people, challenges, and stories behind reliability and inspection. Whether you're in the field or in the office, this podcast is for you because mechanical integrity isn't about assets, it's about the people who keep them running. This is episode 10, Brilliant Whiz Kid. This is the final segment of our conversation with industry legend John Reynolds. John, I know it's new technology. I don't know how much experience you have with it, but do you have any thoughts around people leveraging artificial intelligence and big data conceptualization for helping support these inspectors and senior level folks with looking at the data?
Oh, indeed I do. I think that is the eventual application and impact of AI software for FEME benefits is enormous, and then probably one of the biggest opportunities we have to make further improvements in fixed equipment mechanical integrity. It needs to be properly implemented by knowledgeable subject matter experts and not amateurs. I remember in a meeting that I was at recently, and I think Greg was there too, we were discussing the potential for AI and the benefits that we could have from using AI properly and adequately in our business. And one of the participants at the meeting said that we should treat AI-based FEME software recommendations like we would treat the recommendations from a newly hired brilliant whiz kid fresh out of graduate school, brilliant, but with little or no experience. So those of us with the experience and with the knowledge and with the history would take these recommendations from AI as if it was coming from a brilliant whiz kid and, overlap it with our experience and knowledge and go forth and do what really needs to be done. But I can imagine a situation where AI might generate a recommendation that really didn't make a whole lot of sense because of all the other issues involved that knowledgeable fixed equipment SMEs, subject matter experts can bring to the table. So it has great potential, but we have to use it effectively and efficiently, just like we use all other software. I remember very well back 15, 20 years ago when RBI software came out. There were some sites who were using the RBI software as if the results couldn't be questioned. You just ran the software and implemented the results. But unless those results are overviewed by knowledgeable subject matter experts, they sometimes are very inefficient and don't make sense. And I think the same thing will happen with AI unless we continue to have knowledgeable, skilled subject matter experts in fixed equipment mechanical engineering reviewing the results of the API software. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad you said that, John, because, one of the things that I've personally experienced and seen is, just for example, a project that was done that was a statistical analysis thing using forms of AI. And they thought they could do it just using numbers and just using data scientists and not having any corrosion materials or inspection people involved in the interpretation or contextualization of the data that they were looking at. And so they just ran their numbers game, and you could immediately, any experienced person, metallurgist or metallurgical engineer, inspector could see that, I don't know if I feel comfortable with this, because all you're doing is looking at raw numbers and you don't know when to reject them because they're not valid, when you have data dropout, these other things. And so the recommendations that were made off of that particular exercise did not make sense. And it goes back to what you just said about the SME taking a look at it and saying, does this make sense? And, we have the AI Now you've probably heard of this NLP stuff called natural language processing, because they're wanting to be able to send, so to speak, bots into data lakes and be able to pull the data out. And they run into issues with that because of unstructured data and other issues. But I agree with you. I think it's very exciting. I think AI is going to pay off big time in the future. It's going to help make a step change, I believe. And but I do believe we need to keep an eye on it.
I like that comment of it being like a brilliant graduate student, because I think that's true. Like when you think about it, it can provide another full-time equivalent or more, but you have to provide oversight to that person, right? You bring somebody new on, it's doing work for you. You just got to make sure you provide the oversight and look at that context. I think that's a really cool way to think about it. Whoever mentioned it at whatever meeting, I like thinking of it that way. I'll probably think of it that way when I use it for things outside of work too. If you're already working 10%-ish, is there anything that you're researching, continuing to learn about? Is there anything, I know you're still kind of active in API codes and standards at this point, but is there anything else that you're doing to, at this point, do you feel the need to continue to expand your breadth of knowledge, or are you kind of at that, I've handed it off and we're going to kind of sit here and help advise?
Well, I'm pretty much retired from active API standardization activities now. As Greg knows, I still do a lot of writing for the Inspectioneering Journal. And in fact, working on an article now, may very well be published in the next issue of the journal, that emphasizes the need for everybody to continue to learn. I'm a big fan of continuous learning and improving your knowledge base and improving your competency and learning as much and more as possible, and then sharing that information with others. I'm a big fan of networking. I benefited immensely throughout my career from networking, meaning going to meetings where there were other FEME subject matter experts at API, at ASME, at NACE, and various other industry forums, where I would speak with a lot of people and share my knowledge and gain from their knowledge. And I think that's an enormous benefit, and that everybody who has the opportunity to do that, you don't have to do it just with intercompany efforts like I just mentioned, but even larger companies have networks within their own company where you can share knowledge. So there are a lot of ways you can get with other subject matter experts and share their knowledge and share your knowledge and help then pass that along to others in the form of writing articles or giving presentations or giving advice. Basically, I've always been very convinced that companies don't compete on the basis of how well they protect their equipment. So we compete on a lot of things, but not on process safety and fixed equipment mechanical integrity. So we should share as much of that knowledge as we can with other people who can benefit from it. And so I'm continuing to do that, continuing to write articles and occasionally give presentations in order to expand my knowledge and share my knowledge with others who might benefit and be able to put it to work to protect facilities elsewhere.
Why do you think you were good at, you said networking was really important. Why do you think you were good at it? Or what do you think made you good at it? Or what was the key for you to be good at networking?
Well, I don't know that there's any key, to it, other than my desire to do it and my desire for continuous improvement in my knowledge base. But probably the key to it for me was that my management throughout the years that I worked with Shell, and certainly thereafter, also believed that networking and sharing of knowledge with others that would help other companies protect their equipment and avoid process safety incidents that would get them in trouble with the media, get them in trouble with regulators, and God forbid, even cause loss of life, let alone huge catastrophes. I always worked for a management that felt that way, that it was really well worth worth doing. And so to me, that was the key to my being so interested in networking. And I really appreciated that support.
Greg, you've been around for a long time too. What's your take on networking?
It's essential. It's good to see what other people are doing and how they're attacking things and the experiences that they're having. It's golden. And I've been privileged too, because part of that is mentoring as well. So there's opportunities there to give and receive in that respect. But I think it's huge. And, that's one of the things that used to bug me with some of the research efforts is sometimes people will go in and do research, but they're only looking at their approach to it. They haven't really looked at, well, is there something else going on somewhere else in the world that could help us here too, not just look at what we developed. And like John's saying, I think that we can answer that question by networking, having a commitment to continuous improvement, continuous learning. And this and Branden, I'm glad you asked me this because it kind of leads into this question that you had written down earlier for John. And I think he's already answered it in part or maybe in whole, but what his best piece of advice is for others that are MI professionals in inspection or reliability. What's your best piece of advice, John? I know you just gave some really good stuff. Anything to add to that?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I think you're right. I've already spoken about it, but continuous improvement in your knowledge base is probably been one of my lifelong goals. So, not a day went by in my career when I wasn't focused on learning something new that would be useful for fixed equipment mechanical integrity. So, indeed, I think that's extremely important. Networking is a big part of that. But another part of it is having a personal plan for competency improvement. There are a number of companies that have competency improvement plans. I was glad to work for a company like Shell that had one. But even for those companies that don't have a competency improvement plan for, whole departments, you can put together your own competency improvement plan of what kind of training do I really need or want in order to be able to really contribute better throughout the years in my chosen field of endeavor, and pursue that training, pursue outside courses, pursue videos, obviously book learning, and various other things. Put together your own personal training and share competency improvement plan and share that with your boss so that he or she can see what it is you want to accomplish and the things that your management can provide you in order to achieve a better body of knowledge within your chosen field of endeavor and an improved competency. I've done that all my career and modified my objectives for competency improvement every 3 or 4 years and continuously. And I think it's been one of the keys for my ability to improve my competency over the many years that I've 57 plus years now been in the industry.
I love that response because it's taking ownership of your life and your career is really what it is. It's make a plan for yourself, see where you want to be, and take the ownership to get yourself to that point. We just went through goal setting. And I had some folks ask me, okay, what should my goals be? And I said to them, I can't set your goals. If I set a goal for you, it's a task. I need you to decide what you want, where you want your path to go. And we can work together to develop, writing a goal. But if I tell you what I want, it's a task, it's not a goal. It's not helping you. I want you to come up with a goal that's going to improve yourself technically, business-wise, or professionally or personally, something that's going to be able to help you. I love that you said that because that really resonates for me with how I've been working with my folks.
Good. Well said, Branden. I agree with you.
Yeah. Thank you. John, we've heard a lot of different stories here. As you've mentioned, 57 plus years of experience. One, do you think that there is a person or an event that has really made the most impact? I know you mentioned the Coker issue. mentioning that one made a big impact on you. Is there a person or anything else that has really made an impact and really helped move your career in the direction that it's gone over, again, 57 plus years?
Well, there's not just one person. Of course, the good Lord stands out, first of all, as number one in guiding my career and helping me along. But in terms of humankind, I can't point to any one person. As I've already said, my father gave me the love of nature that has really added to my enjoyment of life beyond my chosen discipline. But within my discipline, there's so many people that I've encountered along the way in my networking that we've already spoken about that, I could rattle off very quickly a dozen or more people that had a significant impact, but then I'd be leaving out a dozen or more people that I should have mentioned and didn't. And I really wouldn't want to do that. But as a result of my networking, I've improved my knowledge base and my competency by interacting with a lot of people along the way over the last 57 and a half years. And I can't think of just one who really stood out, but there were an awful lot of them, including Greg.
Well, I mean, can't imagine the number of people that you've met and hands you've shaken over 57 years.
Indeed. It's been a great ride.
Yeah. When we asked you to come onto this, I know I'm pretty sure you weren't totally sure what exactly this was or what we were asking you to do, but anything we didn't bring up or anything that you wanted to kind of make sure you mentioned before the end?
No, I can't think of anything offhand. Perhaps one that we didn't emphasize, we spoke about, but didn't emphasize as much as I did a lot of audits within Shell, but then after retirement of full-time work with Shell, I really enjoyed the participation in well over 100 audits that I did all over North America, and then sometimes even a few outside of North America, where we got together with a bunch of process safety experts, and a few of us were mechanical integrity experts. And so we focused on that particular aspect. But since retirement from Shell, I've really enjoyed and benefited by a huge increase in my knowledge by participating in audits of plants, as I say, multiple plants, and seeing how other people are accomplishing things and what they were doing well and what they were not doing well, and then leaving them with recommendations for how they could improve. And these were all voluntary audits. They weren't regulatory. They weren't forced on anybody. These were audits that were just through the process safety site assessment and even outside of that, an opportunity for people to just learn from one another and implement improvements so that they could avoid mechanical integrity issues. That's one of the things that in the last 20 years of my career, I've enjoyed the most. And I just wanted to emphasize that, the value of that. And I hope that, in fact, I do know that's still going on. And I am really endorse the opportunity for sites to do that, as well as auditors to have the opportunity to participate.
I know your audits are famous across North America. The number of times I talk to folks and they say, oh yeah, we just had John Reynolds out and we went through the audit and now we have these findings and, not as bad as we thought it was going to be or worse than we thought it was going to be. But always everybody takes what you provide and they really listen to it. I think it's a real testament to the expertise and the career that you've built over the last 57 and a half years. So just in case you didn't know, I want to make sure you do that there are a lot of people out there who know your audits and really respect what you recommend.
Well, thanks for that feedback, Branden. But it wasn't just me. There was always a group of 5 or 7 of us. And well, it depends. Sometimes there was only 2 of us, sometimes 3 or 4. but a maximum of 7. And so there's a lot of people involved. It wasn't just me. And yeah, it's a great opportunity to participate, and a great opportunity for those receiving the audits. So it's an equal sharing of information and value.
Well, let me just add one thing there, John. I thank you. I want to thank you for something we talked about years ago. I don't know if you remember this or not, but we were talking about all this work we were doing with the SCI, with 580 certifications, 571 certifications, all the hard work that the teams put in an API over the years. And I remember years ago, I don't know if you remember this conversation, but you had said that part of your motivation, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been a long time, but I thought that part of your motivation was that you really had a passion around wanting to develop something to help inspection professionals have a career growth opportunity without necessarily having a degree. And I always thought that was very noble of you. That was a bit profound. And I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for all the hard work that you've done. And of course, the time that Shell was willing to invest in your being so involved over the years in the industry activities and what you did after that. John, you've made a big impact on our industry, and I just want to thank you for that.
Well, thank you, Greg. And yeah, I do remember that conversation. And I remember it was very eye-opening to me after spending 6 years getting two engineering degrees and coming to work, and suddenly realizing that in my chosen field of endeavor, I learned 98% of what I needed to know to be where I am today after I graduated from the University of Wisconsin. And I learned a vast majority of that from people who didn't go to graduate school, didn't go to get an advanced degree. I learned an immense amount of information from inspectors and others like them who would take me inside of the equipment. For instance, I remember back in Shell, we'd have discussions about problems that people were having. And as a result of inspectors taking me through equipment, through hydrocrackers, through tall fractionator towers, inside huge 300,000 barrel tanks, storage tanks, et cetera, that was an immense learning experience from people who had learned their skills and their knowledge base, not from a professor somewhere at school, but the school of hard knocks. And they were willing to pass that along to me. And when I'd get in a meeting talking about a problem, I'd often have an advantage over others in the meeting because I'd been there and I'd been inside that equipment. I've seen it and done it as a result of where I'd been and the training I'd received from others in problem solving. So you're right, Greg. I benefited immensely by, again, networking with people who knew more about fixed equipment mechanical integrity in my younger days than I did. And I have a great deal of respect for all of those people. Thanks for bringing that up.
You got it, buddy. Branden, anything else, or is that a wrap?
I think this has been absolutely wonderful. It's been, John, I'd met you once before and definitely live up to the hype. So I appreciate you taking the time and coming on and talking with Greg and I. And yeah, I think that's it. So Greg, till next time.
Hey, keep inspecting, John. Keep telling us, helping us stay between the lines, and looking forward to your next journal article, my friend.
Enjoyed it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for listening to part 3 of our conversation with John Reynolds. In case you missed any of the other segments with John, those episodes are now available wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for listening to Upon Further Inspection, a mechanical integrity podcast. This episode was co-created by Inspectioneering and Core Solutions. Our producers are Nick Schmoyer, Jocelyn Christie, and Jeremiah Wooten. This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute legal or professional advice. Listeners should seek their own qualified advisors for guidance. If you enjoyed this episode, please join us next time wherever you listen to your podcasts. Until then, stay safe and stay informed.